To kick off our tonight's event, we're going to have Empire Marching Elite perform for us. Just a little background on this wonderful band. It is an HBCU-style marching band and program within the larger Big Apple Leadership Academy for the Arts organization based here in Brooklyn. Since 2019, this organization has been known for making positive difference in the lives of New York City youth by providing musical, visual, and enrichment experiences, assisting them in achieving their potential as they develop confidence, cooperation, leadership, responsibility, and high standards of excellence and character. Without further ado, the Empire Marching Elite.
Empire Marching Elite. Good evening, family. I can't hear you. Good evening, family. Now, I want everybody to cool down. You know, I was told there might be some interruptions tonight, but it's all love in this house. So it's all love. So can I please have the three amazing honorees please take your seats? We are here to honor you tonight. Oh, y'all look fabulous. So I'm about to start this off. Welcome to our Black History Month celebration. It's truly an honor to stand before you today in the village of Brooklyn. My name is Nina Saxon, and I get to introduce our New York City Comptroller, a dedicated public servant who has committed his life to ensuring all New Yorkers have equitable opportunities. He's been at the forefront, championing social justice, advocating for equal pay, driving economic development, and also being there for all New York City Housing Authority residents just to have a say at the table. Real talk. And to top it off, he's managing one of the largest pension systems in the United States. Without further ado, allow me to present a visionary leader and the controller for the city of New York. I give you Brad Lander.
Woo. All right. Get yourself someone who introduces you like Nina Saxon, huh? Seriously, though, actually, can we thank Nina Saxon, who is Nina's the manager of our NYCHA Relations and Faith Communities and does an extraordinary job. If you go into public housing developments with her, if you go into churches with her, you will see someone who has given their life to standing up for public housing communities, for faith communities, and for Black communities in New York City. Nina, thank you very much, really. Let's give it up one more time for Empire Marching Elite. Thank you, Bantu. Thank you to those amazing young people. We're going to have some amazing honorees tonight. We're going to have some other great cultural performances. But I feel that when our young people are showing that they've taken the time to learn and celebrate and pass on our traditions and make them look this powerful and beautiful, there's honestly nothing better than that. The whole purpose of what we're doing is to help make sure our young people understand the history and the values and the march forward, and I feel grounded in that tonight. So thank you, Empire Marching Elite. We have a lot of other people besides Nina who have helped make this event possible this evening, and I want to begin by thanking them because the staff and team in the Controller's office is extraordinary, and I have the blessing to get to work with them every day, and the set of people who are in the room who do that work are fantastic. So I want to start with, in the back is our General Counsel, Justina Rivera. Work in the event in the back of the room is Ricky DaCosta, Deputy Controller for Public Affairs. Alia Latif is Director of Strategic Partnerships and Special Projects. She's probably out in organizing. And Sadie Campoamor is our Chief Equity Officer, really played a big role in organizing this event and all our work on equity and justice issues. Megan Flynn, Bureau Chief of Public Affairs. Give it up for Ed Chen, Brooklyn Borough Director. Greer Mayhew, Bronx Borough Director. Our special events team, Liz Monterosa, Jasper Lee, and Nasra Garabala. our comms team, Derek Evers and Emma Mintz, Brenda Badillo and Brenda Cuellar from the Community Action Center. They get results for people, so give it up for them. Excuse me. Our AV team, Yomira and Mikey, and our facilities team, Ivory and Anthony. One more time for all the staff of the New York City Controller's Office and the work they're doing. I'm very pleased to see we are joined this evening by New York City Councilmember Darlene Mealy. Councilmember, thank you so much for joining us. We have a amazing lineup. The three folks that we're honoring this evening really are just like extraordinary celebration of Black History Month. But I want to ground us first here at Weeksville because in many ways the ground on which we're honoring them truly is part of what holds them up. And you can see in the things we're honoring about them how those seeds were planted in this soil all those years ago. So first I want to just give honor and thanks to our hosts. So let's say thank you to President and CEO, Dr. Raymond Codrington. We are lucky to be on this ground together. And I think probably most people know this story, but it's worth telling. Weeksville is named after James Weeks, who was an African-American stevedore from Virginia. And in 1838, just 11 years after the abolition of slavery in New York State, on land acquired from a Brooklyn grocer, they built this free community, centering values, centering a fight, centering hard work that made extraordinary things possible. They saw land acquisition as a critical strategy for gaining economic and political freedom by building their own community. And so by the 1850s, Weeksville had more than 500 residents from all over the East Coast. About 40% were Southern born. Nearly 1/3 of the men over 21 owned land here, which was critical because you couldn't vote if you didn't own land. And so land ownership was both a strategy for building some generational wealth in an economy that still, for the most part, saw you as something to generate wealth from, but it was also the way forward for political freedom as well. And of course, by building that community, they made joyful things happen. The village had its own churches, Bethel Tabernacle African Methodist Episcopal and the Berean Missionary Baptist Church. Colored School number 2, now PS 243. We're going to honor some educators tonight and people who built Black institutions in educational and school space, building on what had been done here. And Weeksville also had one of the first African-American newspapers, the Freedmen's Torchlight, and we are going to honor one of the premier journalists of the United States of America at this time, who builds from that tradition of freed Black journalism and press, started right here at Weeksville. So it is a powerful ground we're standing on. It also inspires so much of the work that we do in the Controller's Office. We don't have a newspaper or churches, but we do believe that financial assets are a critical resource for building community, and that when you have those resources, you must think about what their implications are. And so Nina mentioned that we manage the pension funds that are the retirement security of New York City's teachers and firefighters and public hospital nurses and school crossing guards and cafeteria workers. It adds up to $280 billion of assets that are their retirement security. But unfortunately, you will not be surprised to learn that in general, pension fund assets and investment assets in the United States of America, even in this day and age in the year 2025, are overwhelmingly managed and owned by people that look like me and not by people that look like our honorees or most of the people in this audience. The Knight Foundation did a study a few years ago of all pension fund assets under management in the United States, and they found that only 1.4% were owned by, the asset management was owned by people who were not white men. 98.6, it's a fine temperature for your body, but it is not anything like what this room looks like, what this city looks like, what this country looks like. And what we are saying when we say we will stand up for diversity and equity and inclusion regardless of what he does in the White House, is just to say we recognize what country we live in, what city we live in, what world we live in, and where the talent is. And I'll get to this in a minute, because my job as the controller is to make sure we earn best returns we can on that money, so all those retirees have their retirement security. But when we so we have diversified our funds now over the last 3 years since I've been in office. We have grown the assets under management by Black and Latino and women and Asian managers by $6 billion, by 37%. And we are on a path to get it to be 20% of the funds that we're managing, which still honestly won't be equity, but it'll be a lot higher than that 1.4% I told you about at the Knight Foundation. And here's the kicker. Those Black, and actually Black are the biggest chunk of asset managers in our MWB portfolio, those Black and Latino and Asian and women managers outperform their benchmarks by 500 basis points, by 5%. They are some of the best asset managers in our portfolio. They help contribute to the overperformance that saved New York City taxpayers $1.8 billion last year. So we're not doing it in the controller's office because of our feelings. We're doing it because we know the best talent in the world is represented in this community, built on the ground and traditions in Weeksville, and we are serving New York City's retirees by making sure that we keep diversity, equity, and inclusion in the New York City pension portfolio. And again, there's just no going back. 2 weeks ago, we had 1,200 MWBE asset managers meeting with us in Lower Manhattan so we could keep building more relationships, because we know people who are doing those investments in real estate and private equity and private credit and finance and small business are the way forward for this country and for our funds. And you can just be sure that your New York City controller and the pension funds have the backs of the folks in this room. Okay, I'm going to say just a few more things about what we're excited to do tonight, and then we're gonna move forward because we've got some great performances and some amazing honorees. But I do just want to say a couple more things about the traditions that we're in tonight, because, you know, in addition to the economic equity of this ground, it also represents a remarkable political leadership and diversity. You know, one of the people who used to represent this area is Brooklyn's very own Shirley Chisholm. As the first Black woman elected to Congress, she paved the way for so many others, right, council member? And not just Black women, to fight for representation in politics and government. When she said, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. She meant it, and she knew, like, you keep showing up, you keep bringing that chair, that bold attitude, like when she ran for president of the United States. She changed what this country looks like. And of course, everybody knows Shirley Chisholm. Soon there's going to be a statue of her in Prospect Park. I don't know that everybody knows that she was a member of Delta Sigma Theta. But we're definitely celebrating that tonight. There's a strong Delta presence across our city and state, and it's pretty great that we are honored to have them here tonight. I'll mention that our current Congresswoman, Yvette Clarke, also a Delta. So a pretty great tradition. All right, before we get to our honorees, we're going to have a little more culture, because so much of that has grown up from here, and it's so much a critical part of what we celebrate when we're doing Black History Month. So to pay homage to the foundation laid by all the leaders we're honoring, both past, present, and future, I want to move us forward into our next performance. And I am therefore delighted to introduce to you Frank L. Humphrey III. Frank is a classically trained tenor and actor. He can currently be seen in the recurring role of Gabriel in All the Queen's Men on BET platforms and VH1, and the co-starring role of Cal in Zatima on all BET platforms as well. Please give a big Black History Month welcome to Frank L. Humphrey.
How y'all doing? All right, how y'all doing? All right, how y'all doing? Okay, good evening. Listen, I cannot tell you what an honor and a privilege it is to be here right now one more time. To be asked to do this again. It is a privilege and it is an honor as we are looking forward, never looking back. Uh-oh, did I say something? Okay. And we just thank God for this moment in time. If you can just close your eyes and just listen to this song, it's going to help the world and it's going to make the world a better place. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Ooh, wade in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Now if you don't believe that I've been redeemed, God gonna trouble the water, then follow me down to that Jordan stream. Oh Lord, wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Well, amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Good Lord, God's gonna trouble the water that saved a wretch like you and me. Oh Lord, God's gonna trouble the water. Y'all know it. Wade in the water, yeah. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Didn't my Lord deliver Daniel, deliver Daniel, deliver Daniel? Didn't my Lord deliver Daniel? Then why not could every man? Didn't my Lord deliver Daniel? Ooh, Daniel, yeah, Daniel. Didn't my Lord deliver Daniel? Then why not every man? Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. God's gonna trouble the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
Thank you. One more time for Frank Humphrey, please. It actually, feeling the spirit in the room like that reminds me of one more thing about Weeksville. They put down all those roots, owned the land, built those institutions, and when all hell broke loose during the draft riots in 1863, one of the places that folks found safety was here. And it's not hard to imagine what that might have felt like to them hearing you sing. So thank you. Okay, now we are going to move on to the highlight of the evening, which is honoring these three remarkable people and institution. It turns out I forgot one very important Delta, and that is Nina Saxon. So now you really you see between Shirley Chisholm and Yvette Clarke and Nina Saxon. I bet we have some others in the room. I don't know if folks raise their hand. We have other Deltas in the room. All right, let's hear it. The Brooklyn Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority is dedicated to empowering African American women. The chapter takes a comprehensive approach to community engagement, making significant contributions in the realms of education, civil rights, and civic engagement. Its efforts have solidified its position as a powerful voice in a movement dedicated to social improvement. And I'll tell you that last weekend at Caucus Weekend up in Albany, I was actually having dinner with Congresswoman Clarke when two young Deltas came up. And they could not have been more excited to give their soror greeting to her and be lifted up into this powerful tradition. Your chapter's unwavering commitment to promoting community service has facilitated numerous social impact initiatives, laying a strong foundation for the nurturing and development of future African American leaders. And so it is my great honor for us to present this commendation to the Brooklyn Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta and to its president, Kenya Johnson. Hey, thank you. Here, let's take a picture. We'll come out front and take a picture. Yeah, let's have all of you guys come up. We'll take a picture. And then
Brooklyn Alumni
President
Chapter,
will speak. You're comptroller. I'm not a alum, in case you were wondering.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to the controller, Brad Lander. Good evening to the honorees and all the attendees. My name is Kenya C. Johnson, and I am the proud president of the bold, brilliant, and intelligent Brooklyn Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. We are humbled to be here this evening, especially in this location at this time for Black History Month. Weeksville has been impactful through many Brooklynites since its existence. And Brooklyn Alumni Chapter has spent many times here. We've been in existence for 75 years, impacting our beloved borough of Brooklyn. But we couldn't do that without our 258 members that are part of our chapter. Mr. Lander already stated a few, but what he didn't know is that Shirley Chisholm was initiated in Brooklyn Alumni Chapter and was a member. It was her home. Also, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke was initiated in Brooklyn Alumni Chapter and is a member of our chapter. We also have the Brooklyn District Leader, Ranice Bashat Hermelin is a member of our chapter. We also have Corporation Counsel of New York City. Muriel Good Trufant is also a member of our chapter. And we have the first Black chief clerk of the Surrogate Court of Kings County, Lisa Mathis, and she's here with us this evening. So we couldn't impact Brooklyn at all without all the membership. We strive to change the social ills of Brooklyn. We strive to educate our children of Brooklyn. We recently sent 30 of our teenagers on an HBCU tour. We flew them this time. Usually we take a bus trip, but we flew them out, and we pay the cost for all of them to go. They only need pocket money. So we do many impactful things within the area, and we just want to say thank you again for recognizing all that we do, and thank you, Sora, Nina, for having us. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, President Johnson. Now I have to say a little bit more about one of your alumni, Muriel Good Trufant, the Corporation Counsel. That's the city's top lawyer. And I already told you we have our top lawyer in the controller's office in the room, our general counsel, Justina Rivera. And over the last couple weeks, they collaborated on something very important. You might have heard that 2 weeks ago, I hate to even say the name in this room, but Elon Musk reached his hand in and stole $80 million from the city of New York. That was money that Congress had allocated to us through FEMA to provide shelter and services for asylum seekers. And let's be clear, these are folks that the federal government accepted into the country, gave what are called A numbers, and released them into the care of New York City. And we spent about $7 billion on that care, and they only gave us $200 million, the federal government. But at least we got that $80 million, which we had been contracted for, invoiced, paid meticulously. And nonetheless, he fired the FEMA staffers who paid us the money we were owed, and then reached his hand in and took $80 million out of our bank account. And our office called it out and said, that is illegal. That is money that belongs to the people of New York City. It does not belong in your billionaire hands, Elon Musk. And because we needed to make sure somebody went into court to get it back, we reached out to City Hall and the administration and said, it is critical that New York City go into court and sue to get our money back. And I am pleased to tell you that last Friday, Muriel Good Trufant, the Law Corporation Counsel of the City of New York, after consultation with our office, filed strong papers making clear that was an illegal action by President Trump and his minions. And I am confident, led by that Delta, we're going to get our $80 million back. So thank you. All right. For our second honoree, we have someone who I have admired over the past years and who is a leader who is never afraid to speak truth to power, and that is very rare these days. And that is my longtime friend, Stanley Richards, the president and CEO of the Fortune Society. Please give it up for him. So, we talked about the fact that folks who fought for, who won their freedom, who escaped being enslaved, made it to this place at Weeksville, and that this is a place of fighting for freedom. There are, of course, that struggle for freedom is still going on today, and I think no one knows that more than people who have themselves been incarcerated and who get and fight for and find their freedom, and then build institutions just like the folks here at Weeksville built institutions. And so the fact that Stanley Richards is now the first formerly incarcerated president and CEO of the Fortune Society, y'all, is a big deal. Stanley has reshaped the conversation in this city about what criminal justice means and continued the fight to change our language around incarceration and our practices as well. He is at the center of the effort to close Rikers Island and to rehumanize, to remember that we're talking about people, about human beings who deserve freedom and opportunity, and that the way we talk about it and the way we act about it is critical at this moment in New York City. I think without Stanley, New York City would not have voted and made the commitment to close Rikers Island, and without his continued leadership to keep both pushing through advocacy, but also showing the way through the programs the Fortune Society runs about what it looks like when people get freedom, get supported, and become leaders of the institutions the way that you have. So I am so grateful for the remarkable work that Stanley has done. I have to tell you that our dear friend Herb Sturz is smiling down on this event tonight, and he is so proud of you, and I am so grateful to be a vehicle of giving you this honor tonight. Stanley Richards, CEO and President of the Fortune Society.
Thank you, Brad. Just being here tonight just fills me in so many ways. First, when I think about my ancestry, where my family, my roots from Nigeria, Benin, Togo, and I think about the journey my ancestors took being forced to come here, and what we have done as a community to take that trauma and hurt and rejection and just build the beautiful lives that I see in this room and in our community every day. It just fills me up. And then when you asked us to close our eyes and to listen to that song, the words that God put in my heart that resonated with me, God is going to stir the waters. And when I think about my life, God has stirred the waters, and how blessed I am that God never forsake me. That's right. He never left me. And when I was down and out and broken, God carried me. So this moment just centers me on my journey. So I want to welcome everybody to tonight's event. I am honored to stand here before you today to accept this commendation, which highlights and acknowledges my commitment and work for reentry and uplifting Black communities. I thank Controller Brad Lander for this recognition and this honor. He has truly always been a partner in this. And I remember the first time when I was recommended to be a member of the Board of Correction. Again, the first formerly incarcerated person to be appointed to that board. And I went before Brad Lander's committee, the Rules Committee, to get voted in. I still have the pictures because it was just a powerful moment of how Brad always stood up for what was right. Brad never seen how much time I served, the crime I committed, the harm I caused my community, because I did cause harm in my community. All he saw was who I could be and what I could do, and voted me in. And I thank you for that, Brad. I thank you for that. This award also reflects the collective efforts of countless individuals who have dedicated their lives to uplifting our community and ensuring that our voices are heard, valued, and respected. Because we know there was a time, and sometimes still feels like, Our voices are not heard, valued, or respected, but the fight continues. Black History Month serves as a vital reminder of our shared history, a reflection on the challenges we have overcome, our contributions, and the ongoing journey toward justice and equality. This month is time to celebrate our achievements and educate ourselves and others about the rich tapestry of stories that embody the Black experience. So we need to celebrate that. This month has allowed me to reflect on how the Fortune Society honors and celebrates Black experiences, including my own, my colleague from Fortune, Rob DeLeon, and the experiences of those I see every single day, not only this month, but all year long. But as I accept this commendation, I extend my deepest gratitude to countless activists who have laid the foundation for this progress. Their commitment to justice and visionary leadership has enabled me and others around this city and around this country to continue this vital work. Figures like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and a dear friend of mine, Mr. Eddie Ellis, remind us, that's right, let's lift up Eddie Ellis. He's no longer with us, but he's always with us in spirit. They remind us that activism is just not a role to be fulfilled, but it is a profound responsibility rooted in a deep commitment to our communities. And finally, I want to thank my wife, Satara Richards, who for 34 years stood by my side and supported the work, my journey, and our collective pursuit of justice. She did this with love in her heart, compassion as her North Star, and loyalty and obedience to God centered in our marriage. It is with her strength that I stand here before you, just like it was the strength of my mother and your mothers and your grandmothers and your mother's mother, who stood shoulder to shoulder with family members to make sure that we got enough to fight another day. Moving forward, I am committed to honoring the legacy and and elevating the remarkable individuals who have charted a path before me. The criminal legal system has unjustly impacted our youth, our communities, and our loved ones. At the Fortune Society, we will continue advocating for systemic change by doing the work in our jails, prisons, and streets by reaching people when they need us most. I'll close with the saying that our founder always says, David Rothenberg, who's here tonight, who founded Fortune in 1967, where we say, David says, when Fortune was created in 1967, in the movement that was around equality and justice and fairness, he said, Fortune was created at a time where you didn't have to apologize for caring. And that, David, is something I live by. That, David, is something Fortune lives by. And so we know none of us are ever the worst things that we've ever done. And we need to live our life with forgiveness in our heart, love in our eyes by seeing the best in each other, and compassion in our heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley. Wow. Excuse me. All right. Last but most certainly not least. When you talk about speaking truth to power, you do not leave Nicole Hannah-Jones out of that conversation. Nicole has carried on the legacy of black thinkers and writers like W.E.B. Du Bois and James Baldwin. Again, some of the stuff that grew up here with that first newspaper and has been a powerful force, not just in black history, but in American history. And let's be clear, no matter what they do in Washington, they cannot change the fact that black history is American history. I've both honored Nicole for years now and quite appropriately been disturbed, been troubled, been pushed by her writing, by her advocacy, which is not easy. It doesn't let you off the hook. And I have not felt let off the hook in what she has written, and quite appropriately so. And I mean, I think at first is worth saying, if anyone has bared the hook of what you have written, I mean, what you have had to suffer in the misogyny and racism and hatred and harassment aimed at you is something no one should have to endure. No one should have to endure. And when I say it has been challenging and disturbing and pushing, I just want to honor that first. Like, you have had the courage to speak truth and hold up a mirror that is uncomfortable, knowing what would be aimed at you when you did. And for that, I have overwhelming gratitude. There are really two ways in which, for me, Nicole's work has been just utterly transformative. And the first was around school segregation. Because, now, I guess about 8 years ago or so, coming up on 60 years after Brown versus Board, somehow, and I guess at this moment it's not quite as surprising, it seemed like America had forgotten about school segregation. We tell a story during Black History Month of Brown versus Board, but we had stopped looking at the fact that here in New York, we had amongst the most segregated schools of anywhere in the country, and people had stopped being troubled about it and stopped calling it out. And when she lifted it up and wrote articles that called it so powerfully to people's attention, there were young people who were inspired to organize. There were people in our schools who remembered and woke back up. But this was a case where a powerful act of journalism just reminded people, exposed something, kicked something up that people were trying to ignore, and demanded action. It was a powerful act of journalism, and it made change in New York City. And working together, Faraji and some others in this room, for a brief moment in time in New York, Integrate NYC and Teens Take Charge, and Sadie Campo Amor, and folks at the DOE, and the educators and parents in districts 15 and 13 said, we are sufficiently disturbed, we are sufficiently called by this to do something about it. And there's no doubt in my mind that that article was the prompt that led to the substantial desegregation of the middle schools of District 15, where I live. That is something that I feel so grateful to have been able to be a part of because of work that you lifted up and then others picked up together. And obviously at this moment was another moment, not just of forgetting, but of repression and of gaslighting. But it reminds us that powerful acts of truth-telling and journalism can prompt advocacy and organizing and can make change even when it is stalled. And that was just Act One, so let's hear it for that. Because Act Two was even more powerful, and again, it comes back to thinking about what it means to be standing on this ground at Weeksville. Nicole's 1619 project. Yeah, all right, you guys know it. It demanded a fundamental rethinking of American history and saying, yes, you tell a story about a founding in 1776, but if you erase history that goes back to 1619, you are actually missing the story of what American history is about. And of course, people did get it twisted a lot of ways. So, but I'll just tell the way in which, for me, I have come to think about it, and then she'll tell you how you should think about it. But I think about it like this. Obviously, there are a set of people who want to find in that something that steals, that takes away, that diminishes. And to me, it is exactly the opposite, because telling a fake story about what freedom looks like in this country is no kind of freedom for anyone. It doesn't make me freer to tell a fake story. It doesn't make white Americans, wherever they came from in their history, freer to tell a fake story. What is powerful is to look honestly at a story of enslavement and say what freedom would really look like is for us to try to apply the values we have to the history we actually have. And that, in the same way that you could journey to a personal story of freedom by grappling with the realities and challenges of history and then doing the hard work, that is what we could do in this country. And that wouldn't just be a recognition of what is due or owed to the descendants of slaves and to Black Americans. That would be a flourishing of genuinely inclusive multiracial democracy, a kind of freedom that we would all be lucky to stand in. And so when we honor the 1619 Project, when we fight for diversity, equity, and inclusion, what we are doing is holding true to the most fundamental aspirations that come from an honest look at the history of this country. And that is something that would benefit all Americans, even the ones who are most stubbornly resisting in their racist, authoritarian, fascist ways. Even they and their kids and grandkids will someday come to have a chance to live in a country that is striving to be the kind of free that derives from grappling with the 1619 history that Dr. Nicole Hannah-Jones has taught to all of us. And we are so honored to celebrate you tonight.
First of all, let me correct the record. I do not have a doctorate degree. Honorary, but I don't want to take from the people who actually worked really hard for their doctorate, so let me correct the record. But I appreciate the upgrade in my credential. Thank you so much for holding the celebration. We met, it's been more than a decade now. And I remember you held a big kind of town hall in Brooklyn to talk about issues of segregation, and also really helped the momentum that is sadly stalled in the city to address the really immoral segregation of our children in the city, which is really a segregation of opportunity and the ability to reach your full potential. So just thank you for your leadership in that. Thank you, Sadie. We met through that same kind of integration work. Thank you to my husband, Faraji, who's on the CEC and is also an education advocate. I see Miss Emily back there, and our faculty and parent coordinator from Unison Urban Assembly. A truly anti-racist school, and shows what is possible when we believe in potential of all our children. But I stand here, this is a celebration, but I have to admit I'm not feeling very celebratory today. My heart is very heavy about what's happening in the country, in the state of our country. I'm aware that as we hold this commemoration of Black history, similar commemorations across the country are being canceled, that books that would teach us this history are being pulled off of shelves, that our students are watching their own histories and stories literally being erased from the public sphere, that people who have tried to work on issues of diversity are being fired from their jobs, that companies are abandoning whatever little pledges they made after 2020, that we are in an unprecedented and unparalleled moment. And I just have to speak to that, because that's where we are. So when I was thinking about what would I say as we stand on this ancestral land, I realized that, our ancestors have said whatever I could say better. So I went to the shelf and I pulled out Audre Lorde. And I pulled out the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. And I just want to read a few passages from her essay, Uses of Anger, Women Responding to Racism. Because I think we are told that anger is not the right emotion, but anger is about the only emotion that I can feel right now, and I think that's okay. So what Ancestor Audrey said is anger expressed and translated into action, into the service of our vision and our future, is liberating and strengthening act of clarification. For it is the painful process of this translation that we identify who are our allies with whom we have grave differences, and who are our genuine enemies. I cannot hide my anger to spare you guilt, not hurt feelings, nor answering anger, for to do so insults and trivializes our efforts. Guilt is not a response to anger, it is a response to one's own action or lack of action. It leads to change. If it leads to change, it can be useful, since it is then no longer guilt, but the beginning of knowledge. Yet all too often, guilt is just another name for impotence, for defensiveness, destructive of communication. It becomes a device to protect ignorance and the continuation of things the way they are, the ultimate protection for changelessness. If I fail to recognize my face in the faces of others, then I'm contributing not only to each of their oppressions, but also to my own. And the anger which stands between us then must be used for clarity and mutual empowerment, not for evasion by guilt or further separation. I am not free while any woman is unfree, even when her shackles are very different from my own. And I am not free as long as one person of color remains chained, nor is any of you. I speak here as a woman of color who is not bent upon destruction, but upon survival. No woman is responsible for altering the psyche of her oppressor, even when that psyche is embodied in another woman. I have suckled the wolf's lip of anger, and I have used it for illumination, laughter, protection, fire in places where there was no light, food, no sisters, no quarter. We are not goddesses or matriarchs or edifices of divine forgiveness. We are not fiery fingers of judgment or instruments of flagellation. We are women, forced back always upon our women's power. We have learned to use anger as we have learned to use the dead flesh of animals, and bruised, battered, and changing, we have survived and grown, and in Angela Wilson's words, we are moving. With or without uncolored women. We use whatever strengths we have fought for, including anger, to help define and fashion a world where all of our sisters can grow, where our children can love, and where the power of touching and meeting another woman's difference and wonder will eventually transcend the need for destruction. For it is not the anger of Black women which is dripping down over the globe like a diseased liquid. It is not my anger that launches rockets, spends more than $60,000 a second on missiles and other agents of war and death, slaughters children in cities, stockpiles nerve gas and chemical bonds, and sodomizes our earth. It is not the anger of Black women which corrodes into blind, dehumanizing power, bent upon the annihilation of all of us, unless we meet it with what we have, our power to examine and to redefine the terms upon which we live and work, our power to envision and to reconstruct, anger by painful anger, stone by heavy stone, a future of pollinating difference, and the earth to support our choices. We welcome all women and men, I suppose. I added that part. Who can meet us face to face beyond objectification and beyond guilt. So I leave us with those powerful words. And I want us to just understand as we stand in this place built by people who dared to have a vision of their own humanity that our society did not have, who had a vision for their own freedom that our society did not have, who were determined to build a place where they could breathe free air and nurture their children and provide a future that we all have been able to live in. That is now our duty to ensure that we are also good ancestors one day. Because if there's one thing that Black people know how to do, it is to fight and it is to struggle. And I know we all had to take our rest after the election, but the time for rest is over and the time for fighting for liberation is upon us. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for opening up the possibility that men would be welcome, but also for the anger that isn't quite sure whether it's a good idea. So I really appreciate both. Let's give it up one more time for Nicole, Stanley, Kenya, and the many members of Delta Sigma Theta. Yeah, let's give them one big standing ovation for all of them. Thank you. Okay, we're going to do a picture of all of us. And yeah, and before we close out with one more performance from the marching elite, I want to invite our council member, Darlene Mealy, to come up and share a few words. Thank you very much, council member.
Just want to say to everyone, Black history is every day of our lives here. And I just want to thank our controller, Brad Lander. Let's give him a round of applause for doing in my district. And I just want to say, we did a judge yesterday, and I just said I would thank her for being unapologetically Black and so proud to be a Christian. And just thinking about that, all what our forefathers have went through, we just have to stay strong. And I am so glad she said we have gotten complacent. The election is over. Let's get busy and let's work. And I'm Councilmember Darlene Mealy.
Right. Thank you. Please welcome back the marching elite band, the elite marching band for a final performance. All right. Thank you again to the Empire Marching Elite. Thank you again to Nicole and Stanley and Kenya and the Deltas. Thank you to everyone on the Controller's Office staff who organized this event. Thank you to Weeksville. There's some delicious food out there. Happy Black History Month, and thank you for coming tonight. And thank you to our ASL interpreters as well. Give it up for them.